I'm Brad King, and this is Stories in Steel. On this episode of Stories in Steel, we visit Luc Deley of Marcel's Custom Metal in Norco, California. With a family history of creating sheet metal artwork, Luc followed and forged his own path of becoming a master craftsman. We discuss how he got started, how his father influenced him in the craft, and what it's like to be involved in some amazing automotive masterpieces. Thank you for letting me in your shop today, Luc.
Glad to have you here.
I've wanted to do a story on you for quite a while. I've always admired your work. All the cut fingers and busted up knuckles and hands doing what you do for a living. I appreciate the craftsmanship, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what you do and about how you got here. Well, I mean, what got you into this? Where does this go back to?
Let's just started from Dad.
Okay.
And it was my 15th birthday when he started the shop, and that's when I started after school. From that day forward, and then summers was work. No more summers off, and we just passed 46 years last month doing this.
So when you were always at the shop then? You get out of school,
Yep.
was the shop at the house or was
No. We had a shop, regular industrial building.
Okay.
Started out just Dad's helper. I mean, I didn't know one piece of metal from another. I didn't know the difference between steel or aluminum. It just helped Dad. And after 46 years, I finally caught on. So
finally caught on. So did he have you doing beer can origami or anything like that? Or
no, it was all just a lot of the work here. Sometimes the pieces are big enough, you need two people. So I was always his helper.
Okay.
I was able to work side by side with him from the beginning, and then my brother also. There was the three of us that worked together, and he knew how to weld. He knew how to do some stuff, so he was doing what he could while I was working with Dad. And
now your dad goes way back. Let's go back. So
yes,
Dad's history went.
Yeah,
way back.
he's we're all from Belgium, and
okay.
Obviously I was really young when we moved to the States, but Dad's trade in Belgium was they didn't have new car parts. When you wreck something, you fixed it or you made it new. That was your body shop stuff. It wasn't like today. You wreck your Chevy truck and you put a new fender on it. Back then you fixed it or you made a new one, and it wasn't like you were a craftsman. I was just a normal everyday body shop guy. They were a dime a dozen, and that's what Dad did.
That was a standard deal. Making your own parts was just a regular.
It was
you
your
had no
standard.
choice.
Yep.
Wow.
You weren't necessarily a craftsman back then. That was just a normal thing. Yep.
Wow.
And he was putting one of the truck companies. They'd bring trucks in, but they didn't have cabs, so Dad would make cabs for these trucks. And it was a company that's all they did. And when we moved here it was early 60s when we moved to California. And Dad just went to work in a body shop, just doing collision work. And he was still the old school, lead work and no bond. I don't even know if they had Bondo yet back in the early 60s, but it was, lead work and hammer and dolly work, And then over the years, guys would bring in a Ferrari and, it'd be 6 months to get a part from Italy. And Dad, well, I'll make you a new nose. I'll make you a new front fender. I'll make you a new quarter panel, And so he started doing more and more of that at this body shop, and it turned into, I got so much of my own work here, let's start our own business. So, and for me, I was hoping to be a professional motorcycle racer, but I was almost there. I just lacked the talent. So,
just a minor setback, just a little bitty setback.
Exactly.
There. So, okay, so when were you 15? Because I know you're way, way older than I am. You're
right,
really
right.
old guys.
That was 75.
Okay. So did you get along with him? I mean, you're a teenager, so you're going to butt heads. I mean, did you get along with him well enough or it worked okay? Or?
Never had a problem.
Okay.
We got along really, really well, and in those days, I was still racing dirt bikes on the weekends, and, Dad was my mechanic and supporter, so we spent all week together working and then weekends together racing. So we had a good relationship, So
you started off helping Dad, holding this thing or grab the other side of this thing, and
yep.
Don't drop it, don't let go. And so did he teach you as you were doing, or was it just watch what I do and
Watch
pay
what I
attention?
do. He was a terrible teacher, you know.
Okay.
And I say that respectively because people ask me all the time, you know, why don't you put on classes? Why don't you? And it's like, it's not as easy as you think to teach. You know, I can do it, but I can't tell you how I'm going to do it.
Well, everything, you know, doing what I do, right? Everything has a feel. You can't teach the feel. That's, right. You can watch what I'm doing, but you got to break and mess up a lot of things.
You got to do
that
it.
feel. That's
you got to do it.
Yes.
Yeah. And, you know, there were a lot of parts, not a lot, but there were parts, you know, especially early on. Hey, Dad, can you fix this? I'm not getting there. I want it to look like this, but it still looks like this. And can you give me a hand here? And he'd look at it, bam, you know, he'd put on a wooden stump, beat on a little bit, run through the wheel.
Now, would you watch what he was doing then to see what he was doing, to pay attention?
Yeah, yeah.
I got to figure this out.
Yeah.
I need to understand what's going on here.
It seemed like the best learning curve was, you know, him and Mom would go on vacation and they'd be gone for a couple of weeks or sometimes a month. And it's like, now I have to do it. And that's when you learn the most, you know, when
being thrown to the sharks, I guess.
Yeah, it's, you know, sink or swim, you know, and I felt like I learned the most when he wasn't there, you know, because when he was there, it was always, you lean on him right away.
Right.
Things start to go a little haywire and it's like, hey, can you fix this for me? You know, and when he's not around, it's like, I got to get this done. So you try something, and sometimes, you know, you can shrink or you can stretch metal. And all of a sudden you're stretching it and you realize, that ain't working. I got to shrink over here instead, you know? So it's just, you just got to do it, you know? And I always keep all my bad pieces were in the trash can near my brother's side of the car. So it looked like he messed up, not me. So
perfect. That's brotherly love, though.
Yeah.
Expect nothing less than that. So you're 15, you're helping Dad. When did you get to the point where he kind of started turning you loose a little bit? I mean, how many years? I don't know how long it takes to become proficient.
You know, I don't know. Maybe I'm a slow learner, but I'll bet as in my late 20s before I felt somewhat comfortable when he'd be gone for a month. Because I always knew that, there's going to be something I'm going to get stuck on here, you know. But I'd say a good 12, 15 years.
It's a while.
And like I say, maybe I'm a slow learner. I don't know.
No, it takes a while. I mean, like anything, it takes a while.
Right.
But you know, I was just kind of curious what your learning curve was. So even if you're not to 15 years, it's about standard with anything, I think. So.
And I'd say the first probably good 4 or 5 years, I was more interested in my racing than I was in working. I worked because I needed a job.
Right, needed the money to go racing.
Yes, but I was more, you know, I mean, like now, you lay in bed not sleeping, thinking about how am I going to fix this problem, or how am I going to do this, or how am I going to reshape this or make this better. Where, you know, come 5 o'clock back then, you're thinking about motorcycles. You know, you're not thinking about the piece you're working on.
Okay, so now we fast forward to you're around 30 years old, and I'm assuming you still same shop. You and your brother and Dad still doing your same old thing.
Same thing, and I mean, it seemed like our workload changed over the years. You know, we started out doing a lot of like Ferraris and Porsches and a lot of totals and fixing totals. And then after time, we got into the classics, the Packards and the Duesenbergs and the V16 Cadillacs and the Lincolns and all the like mid-20s to the mid-30s classic cars. And they were worth a ton of money, and you could work on them and get them restored and still make money on them because they're worth so much. And it seemed like once that phase went away, the hot rod stuff kind of came into play, and that was probably in the mid to late 80s is when the hot rod market seemed like it started taking over, because an hour of your time is an hour of your time, depending on your shop rate, your shop rate, and an hour's an hour. Well, you work on back in those days, you work on a 32 Ford, well, you couldn't hardly give them away, or you could buy them really cheap. And a Duesenberg was already $1 million car. So it was worth, our labor's cheap on a Duesenberg, but our labor's really high on a hot rod. And it seemed like in the late 80s, Boyd seemed to turn that whole thing around. And all of a sudden, there's these guys that they're not afraid to spend some money on a hot rod. They weren't building it to make money. They're building it because that's what they love doing. And it didn't matter what it costs to get to their...
I want that in my garage.
Yeah, it wasn't about...
It's like the guys at the Duesenberg, or the Ferraris or the Porsches. They that's their passion. I want one of these.
But they the guys with the classics, they were worth something. You could put your money in it, love the car, and make money on it.
It was an investment.
It was an investment.
So I've been doing it all wrong then, because I like the hobby where you just throw money at it.
Well, and it happened. I think Boyd changed that whole industry. Is people were spending money on cars that they wanted to have, and they knew they weren't going to make money on it, but they wanted that car. So, and that changed our. For 30 years almost, we did nothing but hot rod stuff. So,
and you've worked on some pretty iconic cars, actually.
Yeah, we've been lucky that we were involved with the right people. We've the best of the best in the business. We've been able to work with them on projects, and then not because we had a part of it, but the guys that finish these cars to the level they finish them, to win Riddler and AMBR. We've just been fortunate enough to be on their coattails.
Yeah, that you've won a few of those.
Yeah, I think we got 4 Riddlers and I think 11 AMBR cars.
12, because you forgot about the one I showed you.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't count that one. Yep, I didn't
12.
count that mirror. Yep, you're right.
So, what was one of the hardest projects that you probably worked on?
There was a car that we had done for Rick Dorr, and because of the construction of the car, there were no doors, there was no hood, there was no trunk. The whole car was made of 2 pieces. There was a front end cockpit area and a back end, and because there wasn't a trunk or there weren't any wheel openings, my arms are only this long. And when you're metal finishing, so I had to I made all the sheet metal for the car. And then I put together the center sections, metal finished that. And I went a little further, metal finished those next welds until I got all the way done. But it got to the point where something happens in the middle, I can't reach it.
I can't get it.
I can't get to it. And if you got a trunk, you can get your arm in there and hammer on something. So as far as, to me, it wasn't my favorite car. It wasn't the sexiest car we ever did, but it was by far the most difficult piece of sheet metal.
Definitely a challenge.
Yes. I
don't think... And you had to think that out. You had to think it out from the middle out. You couldn't just, like you said, just go inside the trunk area and...
Right.
What you have to do, you had to think about it from the inside out, because once I'm out there, I'm not going back.
From the beginning, it was a struggle. I guarantee I will not build a second one.
Wow.
The Tim Norman Special, that was the basis of this car. And this is, say, a 90s version of this 1948.
Okay.
And it's kind of like an old Volkswagen Bug, an older Bug and a new Bug, still a Bug.
Now, did the original one have a trunk or any of that stuff, or was it just like this? It was
done on the same theme, with no trunk, and it had a rear end or mid-engine, like a straight 8 Buick. This has the latest, is it the LT4 or what's in the Corvette? And that was a mid-engine, and it was done on the same theme, and the goal was that this car was going to get shown with the Norman Special at one of the shows, and you'd see the comparison in it. You'd see the resemblance, yet they're completely different. And the car burned in the fires in Malibu the same year that we got done with this car. So we never got to do that.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, you built a lot of cars for Rick, and you did a lot of cars for Boyd. Done a bunch of work for Chip. You've done some really cool, some things that were different that I may go, maybe not my type, but it's
right.
But very unique, very very, very unique builds. What is, I know it varies from car to car. It's kind of a really bad thing. What does the average project usually take you to do? They go, here's a drawing. Well, sometimes they give you drawings.
I get sketches, basically, is what I'll get, and I'm just a one-man shop. I'm a one-man band at this point. Right. So the last couple cars I've done for Rick Dorr, they've been pretty good-sized projects. And I'll tell them I need 1 year.
Okay.
I can do the whole thing in a year. It doesn't take me a year, but I got other projects.
Give yourself a buffer zone, then, so you're not killing yourself.
Well, and a guy comes in for a hood, or a guy comes in to fill a top or something like that. I need I can't make a guy wait a year for a 1 week job. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I got to work that stuff in too. So.
I wanted to film more of what you do, but most people don't realize how tedious metal work is. It's like, well, did you film a It's like watching paint dry. I mean, seriously, because it takes so long to actually start seeing something. You can watch it in English, you can be shrinking, whatever, and it takes so long for it to actually start to become something.
Right.
They don't realize, what is this step? This is the step before this step. This and this and this. So try to show little clips and and at least photos to kind of explain what you do, because there's so much to it. It doesn't happen overnight. There's people that that expect things to be done instantaneously. They want that instant gratification. This is definitely not that line of it. No, not to get it to the finish point. I mean, when I'm shaping stuff, the shaping goes extremely fast. The finish work is what takes more time. So you can see the parts getting laid on the jig, and you can see the card rolling, and in a week, there's a lot there. But it's nowhere close to being finished. And now it's like watching paint dry or watching grass grow. Now, what'd you do this week? Well, I welded this together, and that'll finish this and turn this edge. It doesn't look any different than it did last week, but there's always that much progress. Right. But see, then, then a couple of weeks later, too, it's like, hey, it looks like a car sitting there.
Right.
It's getting closer. It's not done yet, but it's starting to get closer. It's starting to resemble something. So, it's got to be a little frustrating with what you do, because it takes a while for your work to look like something is evolving from it. Instead of just like, what have I done? I beat my fingers all up. So and I'm looking at that inner fender right there. There's compound bends and everything else going on just in that inner fender right there.
That's probably a day's work.
Wow! Just to roll that edge and make it look like something. Wow!
And some of the bigger pieces, I mean, I really got to thank my wife she's been my helper, and some of the bigger pieces, running them through the English wheel or putting moldings in and this and that, or even welding stuff together. You get, like that project we were just talking about.
Right.
You got welds that are 8-10 feet long. You got two pieces that are not put together yet. Well, she knows how to line it up and hold it while I tack it, and then I can.
She knows where you want it. It's like, okay, come up, go down, come up, because it's moving.
There's a lot. There's more to it. You can't just get a guy off the street and say, "Hold this." You know what I mean? She's been helping me long enough that she's
watching what you're watching. She's the same thing.
When we're rolling panels, I seem to do a better job with her. I've had other sheet metal guys come in here and, I'll help you. I know how to do that. And I think working on the English wheel, only one person can lead, like dancing. Only one person can lead. And she's so worried about making a mistake, and she has no idea why I'm rolling here or more over here or less. Just follow me and don't hold it crooked, and she does a great job. I deal with guys that can shape metal, and we fight it and fight it and fight it. And it's like, you know what? I'll wait till my wife.
I'll wait till the wife gets
I'll do it with her.
It'll get done quicker. This is too much work. That's actually cool though. You guys have a relationship like that where I need your help on this. All right, let's do it.
Yep. No, it works out well.
So you worked with Boyd in the 80s, and then until that ended, and then I think you just kind of went off with Chip, because Chip kept the ball kind of going, didn't he?
Yep, Chip kept, and I mean, and we've worked for, there's very few builders out there that we haven't worked for over the years, and we've got our little niche. You know, we're almost like the framers building a house. You know, we do our sheet metal part of the car, and it goes from nothing to looking like a car in, you know, let's say 6-8 months, and then they got to work 2 years on it to make it a nice car, because we, you know, the part we do looks like a lot, but it's the part that goes fast. You know.
Now, are most of your builders West Coast people, or you got people all over the country?
We got them all over the country.
Okay.
I mean, there's very few that we haven't done work with. You know? And again, we just do our little piece. We're strictly sheet metal guys. We don't do anything more than the sheet metal. And depending on the builders, how far do you need it finished? Do you need it, I wouldn't say roughed out. Do you need it finished to where a good painter will paint it, or do you need it finished where anybody can paint it? And it's just time. You know, it's just how long do you want to work on it? You know, how long do you want us to work on it? And the car that, you know, I'm doing a car for myself, and I want to show it in bare metal. And
yes, let's talk about this car.
I'm hoping to finish it where the metal work is almost flawless, and I'm getting a lot of help from Squeak White, and he's got patience, and he's a metal finisher, and that's kind of where I'd rather shape another fender, and I can shape a whole other fender instead of metal finishing area this big. You know, I just enjoy that more, and he is so good at what he does, and he's been helping me with my project, and I mean, I'm really proud of it, and hopefully one day if I ever get it finished, I hope people appreciate the amount of effort that went into it.
You should be really proud of it. When you sent me pictures of it, this is what I'm working on, I was blown away because, well, I didn't know what I was looking at. I thought, okay, what is this? And it's kind of unique because you brought in, you know, different styles. And I mean, okay, well, what were your influences on this car?
Well, I'm doing it for a couple reasons. I mean, I really love the late 50s Italian race cars, and it was one of my dad's favorite cars, and I'm kind of doing it in his honor. I hope that people remember Marcel's through this car, you know, and I think we're going to call it a Marcel 1 or an M1 or something like that, you know, just in his name. So that's one of the main reasons I'm doing it, you know, but the cars, mainly Italian cars, you know, the Maseratis, the Ferraris, there's a little bit of Aston Martin and Jaguar, you know, there's some Scarab. I took the cues that I liked from all those cars, and I liked this hood scoop, and I liked the shape of this front fender, and the door shape here, and the tail light here. And so it's not a copy of anything, it's an original, but it's got influences from a lot of different cars in it.
Yeah, it's got a really nice shape to it.
Thanks, thank you.
Really nice shape. It's just a beautiful car. I hope one of these days you take me for a ride in it when you get it all done, because it's. And then you went against the grain, and it's American. Well, it's American built, so it's not really it's European influence, but it's about as us as it's going to get. It's just a hot rod.
Yep, it is.
Just a lightweight hot rod is all it is. Kind of like it used to be in the old days.
Yep.
It was all about weight and horsepower. So what do you got, an LS? I think an LS3.
It's an LS3 with a 6-speed Tremec, you know, and then I've got a Winters quick change rear end in the back.
But it's all independent.
All independent. And I mean, I'm guessing this car is going to weigh about 2,200 pounds, somewhere in that range, you know, and it's pushing just under 500 horsepower.
It's going to be scary.
It should be a little scary, yeah. There's a few people that I got to lean on for some help, you know, and they're all helping me. So it's like, it takes time. It all takes time. You know, it's not a matter of here's the car, here's an unlimited checkbook and finish it. It's actual help I'm getting. So I got to be patient, and it'll all get there when it gets there.
You plan on driving it a bunch?
Yes. It's not going to be a trailer queen. It's meant to be driven, you know, and I know these road tours that they have. I'd love to do something like that with this, you know. I'm hoping I put 10,000 miles a year on this thing.
Keep a jacket and gloves in the back, and
that's right,
just in case. And let's go.
That's right.
You know, we were talking earlier about some of the funnest times you had doing things. What would be the funner times you had working on building car bodies? When
I would say some of the funnest times was when Chip first got involved with Boyd, And, Chip's ideas were awesome. And him and Dad, they thought very alike. And Chip would spend 2, sometimes 3 days a week at our shop, helping build a fixture for whatever we're going to build. And then, with Chip's influence, and then us doing the metal work, and then Boyd's guys finishing the car. Those were some of the coolest projects ever. I thought they were really fun, and they put us on the map, Boyd on the map. When the Boydsters came out, and just those days were really fun. Working together with Chip, and then my dad, and that was really, really cool.
You guys were busy. It was just
pretty
much
it was
nonstop,
my brother and me and Dad, and I just said a while ago, it takes me about a year to do a car. But back in those days, we're turning these cars out in 3 months.
Complete, really?
Yeah. Sheet metal.
Well, right.
Our part of it.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. So
making a body happen.
But we had,
Wow.
we always had 4, 5, 6 cars in our shop. They all needed to get done. So we busted our butts and we got them out. I think that's why so many builders use us, because the projects got out. They didn't come in and sit around. We got them in, and very seldom was a car in our shop for more than 6 months, and it was finished and down the road. And then I think, as far as for me having a good time, when I started here in the barn, and it was, Dad was retired, but he'd still come out and give me a hand once in a while. Those were probably the funnest times, because it wasn't a business anymore. It was a hobby shop, and there was no pressure of getting it done. And we didn't have 12 cars that were breathing down your neck. Hey, when can we bring them in? When can we bring them in? It was like one car at a time.
Now, was that what it was like when the 3 of you were working?
It was nonstop.
The phones ringing, and when can we get it in there?
Yep. It was just go. And we did. We didn't just do hot rods. We chopped tops. We did all kinds of other mods. We did airplane stuff, we did motorcycle stuff, sheet metal. So
you did do airplanes. You showed me some pictures. Have you done a lot of airplane work then?
Not a lot, but a decent amount. Like I say, sheet metal.
Okay.
So and motorcycle stuff, and it was probably 95% car stuff that we did. But we did sports cars, we did hot rods, we did classics, we did the later years of our business, we went away from fixing anything. It's like, I'll make you a new part, I'm not gonna fix it. When we first started, we took in whatever and we fixed it. Whatever it took to get the job done, we did. And as we got busier, a little pickier, it's like, well, I'll make you a new one, and I'm not gonna fix this. They bring you a total of some sort. And it's like, find somebody else to fix it, or I'll make you a brand new one.
Right.
And then I think it was actually Frank Curry from Curry Enterprises. He was the first guy that we got to build a full complete body for, and that kind of changed the industry a little bit.
Now, which car of that? Which car?
It was a 32. It looked like a 32, and he had a big Ford motor in it.
But the one that went to Bonneville?
Went to Bonneville,
Okay.
went 205 in this thing, and what it was, he had brought us a car, and we had never seen a nicer 32 than this car that he brought us. And he wanted hidden hinges, and he wanted this change, and the firewall sunk in for this motor, and he wanted all these mods that everybody wants on their, and we're like, you can't cut this thing up. This thing is way too nice. And we're like, what if we just build you a new one? He's like, okay. And from there, and Boyd saw that, and he's like, I don't got to bring you this old crap anymore. We can just
make it brand new.
And we're like, yeah, why not? And the amount of changes everybody wanted on these cars, sometimes changing something for us is a lot more work than just making it new. The guys that can't shape, they'd rather, take 2 door skins to make a door 4 inches longer, take 2 door skins, weld them together, metal finish, all that. For me, it's easier to make the whole door than to clean that welding up on a door skid, you know? And just everybody's mindset was like, they never even thought about making it new. That's cut here and splice and dice. And we're like, well, if you're going to do that much work on this little panel, why not just make it new?
So you kind of made your own industry. I mean, you took something that there was a need for, and it's like, why don't we do this instead of what we've been doing?
Right.
I mean, yeah, it would be a whole lot easier making a new piece than welding two together and trying to straighten all that out.
Right.
That makes sense.
And you're not limited with changes, you know, because a lot of times, you know, you're trying to change something, and there's always a compromise. You know, there's a belt line, a molding of some sort that doesn't come out when you chop it here, and you want more chop here than here, and certain things don't come out. Just draw what you want, and we can make it. And that seemed to change the industry a little bit back in those days from, again, with the Boysters.
So Curry's car was just a complete,
it
was a complete hand-built
car.
Well, any other projects like that were like, well, besides this, I mean, this is a nothing car. This was just out of your brain and different ideas. And I tried to get pictures of the buck up there of what you did. You can tell with a lot of thought of, okay, let's move this around. Let's try this. And, you know, you said, you know, before you'd bend it up and like the back fender and just stand back and look at it going, no, I don't like that shape. And go back and bend it up and look at it some more.
And you know, that I did by myself. And I got to tell you, you know, we had to make a jig like that for every car that we built. And I really miss Dad on that part of it, because you can kind of, you know, I can hold a piece of tubing, and he can look at it and raise it or lower it. And then he'd hold it and I'd look at it, and we'd bounce ideas off each other. When it's just me, I got to tack something to it, make it stay in place so I could look at it. And if I don't like it, cut it off, change it, tack it again. And sometimes you fall into a rut where you see things one way. You know, you might walk in and say, why'd you do that? Why didn't you make that, you know, this much higher? Then I'm looking at it like, wow, why didn't I? I never thought of it. You need someone else looking at it once in a while, and I don't have that anymore.
Now, as the wife, does she even care about me? She got an eyeball for stuff? I mean, now that she's been helping you, or does she really?
She married me. So
okay.
What kind of taste can she have?
Right. She peeked out.
Yeah. No, it's really hard, you know, to get an opinion from somebody. And I mean, I love Chip's opinion, you know. You come in, I like your opinion.
Well, just different ideas. Just it's like, oh, I wasn't thinking about it from that angle. But somebody's going to come in and go, hey, what about this?
Right.
I'm thinking about that.
Right.
So,
and that's, I really miss that. You know, I miss working with Dad. I got to be honest. You know, it was a lot funner spending the afternoons with him here than doing this.
And if you had ideas too, see, I mean, he wasn't just a guy. It's like, my job is to make this, and I got an idea about this. Well, there you had a guy to bounce ideas off. It's like, am I on the right track here? Yeah, let's try this. Let's try this, and just see. Which is part of that's fun about building cars is let's try and just see if it works. If it doesn't work, we'll go back. We have to buy another piece of whatever, but we can at least see if we like it or not.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, you know, he was 86 the last years that he worked here with me, and he was still hard to keep up to. You know, at 86 years old, he busted his butt, man.
Really?
Yeah.
He could still make things happen at 86.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Probably for a good 10 years, we did a lot of prototype work.
Okay.
You know, and it was I don't know if I should use their name or not, but, you know, Metal Crafters down in Orange County there. They were a prototype company, and they would bring us a female fixture of a front fender, a door, deck lid, roof panel. Never told us what it was, had a number on it, you know, number 1006, you know, and hey, how's 1006 doing? Yeah, almost done with it, you know, and never told us what it was going to be. And that kept us busy for almost a solid 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you ever see any of the cars and figure out going, I know what that's from. I made that piece right there.
And very seldom, I mean, we had on a few of them where we got almost all the panels, and, you know, you can
start duct taping it together.
You can clamp it together to see what it's going to be. But usually it was like, you know, two front fenders from this project, and then, you know, two rear fenders from this project, and because everything was kind of top secret, you know.
I'd heard about that place for years. It was one of those, and I had the luck. No, I was fortunate enough to help Dennis on a couple of projects.
Okay.
We tag teamed a couple of jobs down there. So he's explaining, we're going down there, and he goes, okay, this is how this place is. He goes, it's very much top secret. So you get down there, and I'd never seen any place like that before, where the walls are on wheels.
Yeah.
So it could, the big three is down there. All three of them, they got stuff going on for a Chevy Dodge, and you're looking at this one wall, it's got wheels, and so he's like, well, yeah, they each have their own toolboxes and their own welders and torches and anything,
Even the guys working
metal
there.
brakes, anything they need is in that room. And he goes, they may move that room out 5 feet this way because this thing is changing, so they need a bigger room because they got to put another set of whatever to work.
Right.
I said, so, and everything is all like digital keypad locks. And you go, really? He goes, yeah. You're not going to get in there.
They had a group of guys that worked on this car, and they didn't know what was in this
exactly.
box,
Just to the wall, just the wall. Their side of where they were. Have no idea what's in there. And you go, that's pretty amazing, though. You think about that.
They kept us extremely busy for a long time. So that, again, sheet metal, and I prefer rounder parts. A lot of the newer cars from this was like mid '90s to the early 2000s. The cars are pretty flat and sharp and square, and they weren't my favorite shapes. And it's hard to put very little shape in something. It's easier to put a lot of shape in something than very little shape.
Makes sense, sure.
So it was fun. It was
lots of prototypes. That's cool. I did not know that about you.
Yeah.
It's that challenge, the secret challenge. I like that.
One of our favorites was one they called the Atlantique, and it was a Chrysler project, and we did every single piece of sheet metal on that car except one door. They did it one door in house, but we did every piece, and that car. My dad loved that car. It was one of his favorites that we've ever got to do, and later on when we did the What the Hey for Boyd and then the French Connection,
okay,
a lot of that car was in my dad's head, and you could see a lot of the influence from that car in both of those cars.
I know you did a bunch of work for the Kugel family. They build hot rod suspensions, and they had their own line of bodies. I guess you could call them their own line. I don't know what the influence was. What was the influence of that? I mean, it's 32s and 34s. I think they made it.
It was just 32s.
Okay,
it was only a 32, and this is, Jerry pretty much came up with the design, and I think there was a little bit of chip influence that helped Jerry come up with that design, and it's what Jerry thought a 32 should look like, and he liked the Boydster, except the Boydster was a little too modern for Jerry. Jerry still liked having a separate hood and a separate cowl, and a 32 needed to have a square door, not a 34 style door. But it was a quarter panel, from the wheel opening on a 32 is probably about that big, and on a Muroc it was probably that big. So it looked like a 32. But you needed to park another one next to it
to really see the difference.
Wow, this is a good looking car.
Okay.
So yeah, we did 10 highboys for him and 10 full fendered cars of the same model.
Okay.
I know a while back we were hoping to get them all together, at one meet somewhere, and it never did happen. But I know Jerry
that would have been pretty cool
talking about that, and we were trying to do that, before Dad had passed away. I thought it'd be really neat to get. And I'd still like to see that someday. I couldn't tell you how many cars over the years that we've done, but it'd be really cool at one of the car shows to see how many Marcel bodies would be at one arena, if you know what I mean. They had a tribute for Chip Foose at the Grand National Roadster Show a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And he had 12 cars there that he had done. 8 of them, we did the bodies on them. Or partial.
Wow. You had your hands on. You were just in 8 cars you were involved in.
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
So it really would be neat to see all that together. A lot of the classic cars, and especially a couple of Duesenbergs that we've done. Jay Leno knows that we did the metal work on them, right? So a couple of years back, me, Dad, and my wife, we ended up at Jay Leno's place, and he puts us in a golf cart and, drives us around and tells us about all of his cars. And we get to this one. He goes, Marcel, I think you did this one, And
so he knew who you were when you were there.
Yes.
He already knew who you were.
Yeah.
Okay.
He goes, I think you did this. Just yeah, we did that one. And then we did the one next to it. You did that one too? He didn't know we did that one. But he knew some of them.
Yeah, that's pretty.
And by the time we got done going around this place, there was a standard steamer that we had done, and I think there were like 15 cars that we had done all the metal work on, and he knew what they were for. He goes, I know you did this one. But by the time we got done,
wow.
there were 15 cars there.
He was blown away.
Yeah, he was like shocked that we did that, and then, since I've been here in the barn, the last 8 years, Rick Dorr kind of fell into Boyd's footsteps. Boyd went away, and here comes Rick, and, we did 8 cars in 8 years, and,
wow.
And, those were, again, the kind of cars that Dad really liked doing. They were more the French style.
Lots of round.
Yeah, that Art Deco.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Look, and so that's been a great run. It was fun, We get a lot of freedom. We get basically an idea of what he wants, and then we do the rest.
Anything in the near future that you know of, or is it just
there's talk?
Okay.
I haven't seen drawings. But there's talk. So I'm excited to see what's up his sleeve next. It takes guys like Rick and Boyd, and to make these projects happen. Without them, I'm just a sheet metal guy. So they come up with the ideas, and then we get to do the metal work, but then they got their guys that paint them, and upholster them, and finish them. And so it takes a team. It's not one guy that makes these cars happen. It's a team. I'm glad to be part of it. So many celebrities we've done work for, but never met. It was maybe 5-6 years ago, and all these years we've been doing work that ended up being for Jay Leno, through other shops, through other restoration places.
I never knew.
And we didn't know, like this Newsomburg here, I don't know who owns it. I know the restoration shop I'm doing it for, but I don't know who the owner is. I guess it was about 6 years ago. Jay Leno comes walking in here. We're doing a Duesenberg for him.
He came into the barn,
and we're doing it through a restoration shop, and we'd still never met Jay Leno ever. And about a mile from here, some guys, we got some neighbors that are totally into the Chrysler Hemi stuff, and he ends up buying this, I think it was a Chrysler 300 or something like that. And they go, you want to test drive it? And he goes, yeah. So they're driving around here, and hey, you want to go see your Duesenberg getting done at Marcel's? And he didn't know we were right here.
It's like, wait, we're in the neighborhood?
Yeah, so they pull in here, and here comes Jay walking down comes in the barn, checks out his car, and he thought it was really cool meeting Dad, and
that's awesome.
So that was neat that he, and that's when he said, he goes, hey, I've been to your place now, you got to come to mine. Those were his exact words, and so just neat guy. He is just what you see is what you get, and then we've never met, but we've done cars for Eric Clapton, through other shops. I think it was maybe Brizio's.
Probably, yeah.
And then, gosh, Rick's connected with James Hetfield. And then who else was it? During the Boyd times, we did work for Michael Anthony Van Halen.
Right.
And just met him recently. He didn't know that we did any work on his car, but just met him recently, but never met him back when we were doing these projects.
He's a car guy.
Yeah, total car guy.
He's a car guy. You've done a lot of European cars. Anything that stand out? Anything that you can think of that might be cool?
Yeah, we did. Early on, I don't know how many, we probably did a dozen of those RSK little 550 Spiders and stuff,
Okay.
And back then, I don't think they were all that valuable. Now they're, untouchable,
Right.
And then there was an era where, they were taking the 275 GTB, where they had a long nose and a short nose option, I guess.
I don't know.
And, now the long noses were worth a mint, and the short nose was kind of just your average car. cut them off right between the wheels, front end off, make a long nose out of it, and now it's a long nose, and I don't know how many of those we
just made your own front end for the Porsche. For the
Ferraris,
yeah.
These guys would come to us, hey, can you make this a long nose? Sure, if you want. We'd make it, make a new hood and make the whole front end, and they looked the same. They were just stretched out, but they were worth more money. And I don't know how they got away with serial numbers and stuff, but
right.
I mean, it finally came to an end. We were doing a LeBaron body, a 1934 Packard dual cowl LeBaron. And the story I heard, there were 6 of these ever built, and 1 sank when it got shipped to Europe on the Andrea Doria or whatever that ship was, right? So there's 5 left. I guarantee if you're an owner of one of these 5, you know that there's a white one and you've got a blue one and this guy's got a red one. Well, we ended up building this one for a guy, and I think he's trying to say it's an original. I don't know, but it shows up at Pebble Beach and it's black. Well, he said, where'd that one come from? There isn't a black one. Well, there is now. I think the one we built got first place. There was a 2-door bow-tail version of the same car that we built. It got second place. An original dual cowl got third place. Well, the guy with that dual cowl, I think it was the guys from the Nethercutt Museum, and they changed the rules that rebodied cars couldn't compete against original cars. But it's just funny how things like that, for 5-6 years, that's all we did. Guys would call us the great counterfeiters. I've gone to Pebble Beach one time, and the year I went, I'm looking at this V16 Cadillac. It's a little 2-door roadster thing. I'm looking at it, and I asked the guy, I go, this original? Yep, it's original, And I know how we fold the wires in the fenders and how we do stuff, and I felt in there, and I knew we built this car. I just knew it was one that we did. I did not want to tell the guy that we did it. I never did mention to him that This is a rebodied car. But there were hundreds of those built. So they could slide some in there, and they're still an original. When there's 5 Packards.
So like on this, that's one of your giveaways. You could just feel up there and go, no, this is mine.
Yeah, no, I can usually tell, and I knew on those, on the way the bodies came back, kind of Coke bottle-ish. I knew on one side we had a little deeper spot than on the other side, and that's the way the wood was on these cars. And this one was that's what made me think, this looks like one we did, and that's when I went and felt underneath there. I never did tell the guy, because who knows what he might have paid for that car.
It had broken his heart, or he knew he was busted, one of the two.
Yeah, so, and that's when we got into the hot rods. The classics went away and the hot rods started.
So do you have any goals left? Anything you want to do, or did you do everything you ever wanted to do?
I want to finish this, I'll tell you that. And that'd be one box I can check. And depending on how much people like it, I have another design in my head that I'd like to maybe follow up on after this. So
same type of idea.
Same idea. It'd resemble a certain style car, but I'd make it my own.
Just stick with the chassis and drivetrain you have on this.
No, I think I'd change it completely. I think I'd go for a whole different look.
Really?
Yeah, a whole different look. And my goal on this car is, like if you're a Ferrari guy and you see this car at a show from 50 feet away, you're gonna say, let's go look at that Ferrari. And as you get closer, that's not a Ferrari. Wait a minute, that's a. And if you love Jaguars, you're gonna see the Jag. And if you love, Aston Martins or a Scarab or whatever it might be, you're going to see what you want to see. And as you get closer, you're going to realize, no, that's not that, and that's my goal, is that, it's not a copy of anything.
Yeah. What is this car?
This is influenced by late 50s Italian is the basic idea of this car, and we'll see how it goes over.
You need to keep it for a while, just so you can enjoy people's
I want to keep
reactions,
it. Yeah, I want to drive it. I definitely want to drive it.
You need to go to Monterey. You need to go to places like Monterey is where you need to go. There's your people.
And I would drive this up there. I think I would. My wife might follow in a Honda, but and I'm hoping it's not so far off that people still think it could have been built at a factory. It could have been built at Scaglietti or Pinafrina, or it's not. built it is built in a garage, but it's not. You know what I mean?
But it is. That's so cool.
Right.
It was just made in a garage, and it wasn't a big factory with these guys with zillion-ton presses.
Right. A good friend said once they asked him, "What's your favorite car?" He said, "The next one."
This is hand hammered. Oh yeah, he built this with a hammer and a tree stump. 1959 Chevy. It's the Marcel Roadster. Took 3.5 years to build. It's got an LS3 with Borla exhaust under that hood. Everything is awesome on it. I mean, look at the front end. It's similar to a Ferrari, similar to a Jag